Hello, everybody. So we are going to be starting chapter 7. So this section is called Basic Trig Identities. And these notes are going to be extremely important because they're going to be a reference sheet for everything that we do in chapter 7. So it's really important to understand these and have these memorized. So we are going to start with a warm-up. So you'll notice in the directions, it gives us an important piece of information, which is that theta lies between 0 degrees and 90 degrees, which means that this is going to be a first quadrant function. And so we're going to draw a triangle in the first quadrant, and this is going to be my theta value somewhere between 0 and 90. So then they tell us that cosine of theta is equal to 1/4. So if we remember from SOHCAHTOA, cosine is the CA value. So that means my adjacent is 1 and my hypotenuse is 4, or we could say my x value is 1 and my r value is 4. So that puts 1 here and it puts 4 here. So what we're missing in order to find tangent is the opposite. So we're going to call that y, because if we talked about this point right here, it would be 1 comma whatever that height is. So I'm going to say that a leg squared plus a leg squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared. So if we solve that, we would subtract 1 from both sides here, and we get y squared is equal to 15. And then if I take the square root of both sides, remember we are in the first quadrant, so we don't have to worry about the plus or minus because everybody's positive in the first quadrant. And so we're going to say that y is equal to the square root of 15. Okay. So then when we go looking for tangent in SOHCAHTOA, that is the TOA value. So we're going to say that the tangent of theta is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. So opposite of theta is the root 15, and adjacent to theta has a side of 1. But we know that any number over 1 is just the numerator. So take a moment to pause the video and see if you can do part B for yourself. So B is saying that we've got tangent of theta is equal to 7/2, and we're looking for sine of theta, but again, theta is in the first quadrant. It is between 0 and 90 degrees. So our picture is going to look very similar. And obviously it's not to scale because one side is going to be much longer than the other. And so tangent we said was TOA. So that means opposite of theta is going to be 7 and adjacent to theta is going to be 2. So what we're missing in order to find sine is the length of the hypotenuse. So Pythagorean theorem says leg squared plus a leg squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared, which we tend to use r for that value. So if we solve this, we've got 4 plus 49 is equal to r squared. So if 53 is equal to r squared, and remember the r is always positive no matter what quadrant it's in. So if I take the square root of both sides, we get r is equal to positive square root of 53. But remember, that's not our final answer because the question is really asking for what is the sine of theta. So in SOHCAHTOA, that is our SO. So the sine of theta is equal to the opposite of theta, which is 7, over the hypotenuse, which is the square root of 53. Now, either you remember from chapter 5 and chapter 6 how to simplify this quickly, or we could just multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 53. So when we do that, the numerator becomes 7 root 53. And the denominator would be the square root of 53 squared, which gives me just 53. And so that is the sine of theta. So I'm going to take a moment to read a passage from page 421 in your book. So it says in algebra, variables and constants usually represent real numbers. So we're looking for what real number solves this equation. So the values of trig functions are also real numbers. That's why we were able to graph them on a Cartesian plane. So therefore, the language and operations of algebra also applies to trigonometry. And so algebraic expressions involve things like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponents, substitution, that kind of thing. And so these operations are used to also form trigonometric expressions. And so here are three examples of what a trig expression could look like. And then just to let you know, I know it didn't copy very well, but in the second equation here, or expression, I should say, that should say alpha, because little a tends to stand for the length of the side of a figure, whereas alpha or a capital A would represent the measure of the angle. And then just to be clear, whenever I see sine with a square right next to it, and then a theta or an alpha or an a, that's the same as saying the entire function sine of theta quantity squared. It's our shorthand way of writing that. So an identity is a statement of equality between two expressions that's true for all of the variables. So we're saying this is true all the time as long as both sides of the equation are defined. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So we have three algebraic identities that we should have already dealt with in the past. So one is the difference of two squares. So anytime I see x squared minus y squared, I know that it factors to x plus y times x minus y. And the reverse is also true. If I see x plus y times x minus y, I know that that's x squared minus y squared. You might have seen it as a squared minus b squared in the past. There are two other not as known formulas. These are called the sum or difference of cubes. And these are the formulas for factoring a cube situation. So if you are not done yet, I would pause the video real quick to copy those down. I'm going to move forward. So if it involves trig expressions, then we're going to call that a trigonometric identity. And so these aren't foreign to us. We've used some trig identities already. So one type of trig identity is the reciprocal identities. And so how we learned the definition of cosecant of theta was it was the reciprocal of the sine of theta. Same with secant of theta, it's the reciprocal of cosine. And cotangent of theta is the reciprocal of tangent of theta. And if I take the reciprocal of both sides, then that means on the left, I end up with sine of theta. Well, I would say on the right, I end up with sine of theta, and on the left, I would end up with 1 over cosecant of theta, and then we just flipped it. And that means cosine of theta is the reciprocal of secant, and tangent of theta is the reciprocal of cotangent. So again, I know I'm going through this a little quickly, so if you're trying to copy this down at the same time, I would pause the video along the way to give yourself the time. So then we have quotient identities, and these are used all the time. So we want to go back. Sometimes I like to show you where they come from so that they make more sense to you. So think back to chapter 5. We said that the sine of theta was equal to y over r. I think we talked about it in chapter 6 as well. And we said cosine of theta was x over r. And we said tangent of theta was y over x. So by putting the r there, it could be a unit circle or it could be off the unit circle. It doesn't have to be a unit circle. And so looking at, I want to just look around it, like explore sine of theta over cosine of theta. So sine of theta is represented by y over r, and cosine of theta is represented by x over r. So I just substituted those two values. And so if I divide by a fraction, it's the same as multiplying by a reciprocal. So you notice x over r became r over x. I can then cancel my r values, and that leaves me with y over x. So sine of theta over cosine of theta is represented by y over x, no matter what kind of circle we're in. And then hopefully you notice y over x is tangent of theta. So that means as long as tangent of theta is defined, meaning that cosine of theta isn't 0, then this identity is true every single time. Anytime I see tangent of theta, I can turn it into sine of theta over cosine theta. Or if I happen to see sine of theta over cosine theta, I can substitute that with tangent of theta. Now, thinking back to those reciprocal identities, we said the reciprocal of tangent was cotangent. So if I take the reciprocal of both sides, let me move my picture here, then the reciprocal of tangent is cotangent, and then the reciprocal of our fraction becomes cosine of theta over sine of theta. All right. So moving forward, let's also talk about the Pythagorean identity. Now, from my understanding and talking with a calculus teacher, this one is going to be really important. And it comes from the Pythagorean theorem. So the Pythagorean theorem says if we have a right triangle, then the sum of the squares of the legs is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. So one thing you should notice is we are dealing with a unit circle here because we know that the hypotenuse is 1. And so we can say that the leg squared plus the leg squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared. And notice that the square of 1 is 1. So that's why we didn't call it 1 squared. So again, unit circle. So cosine of theta is represented by x on the unit circle, adjacent over hypotenuse. And sine of theta is represented by y on the unit circle because that's opposite over hypotenuse. And notice now, because it's just like algebra, I'm going to substitute cosine of theta in for x, and I'm going to substitute sine of theta in for y. So that means that I have cosine theta squared plus sine theta squared equal to 1. We can clean this up by saying that we have sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equal to 1. So this is a huge, big deal, this one. And it leads us to 2 more Pythagorean identities. So coming back to this original identity, I can take each of those terms and divide them by sine squared of theta. And what you'll notice is in this first fraction, these are going to reduce down to 1. In this second fraction, we said that cosine of theta divided by sine of theta was cotangent of theta. So that fraction is representing cotangent squared of theta. And on the last one, we said the reciprocal of the sine of theta was cosecant of theta. So that means that that fraction represents the cosecant squared of theta. I can do exactly the same thing starting again with the Pythagorean identity and divide this time instead by cosine squared of theta. And you'll notice in the first fraction, sine theta over cosine theta, we said that was tangent of theta. So this fraction represents the tangent squared of theta. And then in the second fraction, they cancel to give me 1. And in the last one, the reciprocal of cosine theta was secant of theta. And so that fraction represents secant squared of theta. So again, if I'm going too fast, you can pause the video. And at this point, I am going to pause and I will start the rest in part 2.